talk
Hey,
tomorrow. We got in
New Carlisle City Council, the regular meeting Monday, May 19th, 2014. Now come to order, please.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Here.
Mr. McIntyre,
Here.
Mr. Zambach,
Present.
Mr. Reynolds,
Here.
Mr. Rick Lowry. Here. Mr. Mike Lowry.
Here. Thank you. Okay, now we have the invocation by Council Member Ethan Reynolds, please. Would everybody stand?
Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight to ask for your blessing. Lord, open the hearts and the minds of this council. Bless us and help us make right choices for New Carlisle and to improve the lives of others. We are so grateful to live in this city and in this nation. Give to the council the wisdom to lead the city with integrity and to lead us with compassion. Lord, grant us the strength to accept the things we cannot change, to the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to make a difference. Amen.
Amen. Can you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? We have a flag in the back that we'll use, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, just a reminder, if you have a cell phone, if you'd please put it on vibrate or turn it off, please, so it doesn't interrupt the meeting. Action on the regular meeting, action on the minutes of the regular meeting, May 5th, 2014, please.
So moved. Second. Motion by Mr. Lowry, second by Mr. Zambach.
Whenever you're ready, sir.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre,
Yes.
Mr. Zambach.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, on communications, before we go, I would like to go ahead and excuse Mr. Kraybacher. He's out of the state this time. If we could do that, please. Could I get a motion to excuse Mr. Kraybacher?
Second.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre,
Yes.
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. Are there any communications tonight?
None
Nothing
tonight.
on that? Thank you. And we'll go into city manager's report, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. To start with, at the top, under Madison Street School, some of you may or may not know, I did put an ad in the New Carlisle News last week regarding the building being for sale, and I think it worked. We got the attention we were hoping for. It was on Facebook with at least 55 comments or people making suggestions and stuff, but I think the word is out that the building is for sale, and you know, if we get people thinking about it and asking questions, that's good. And I've had a couple calls wanting to know its location or how much or whatever, and my answer is always make us an offer. We're very negotiable, you know, whatever the best, like it said in the ad, no reasonable offer refuse. So just to bring that to your attention in case you were not on Facebook and didn't see that, it was fast. It was within a couple hours of the paper being out that it was on Facebook. So the word is out.
Council, any questions on that? Anyone? Yes, go ahead.
Regarding the school, not necessarily the ad, but what kind of damage and cost? I mean, I don't know if you even know that with the fire that came with that. Do you know by chance?
As far as damage goes, there was some damage to the actual roof. That's where the initial fire was set. For those of you that don't know, there was an arson fire there a couple weeks ago.
Last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday. So
Wednesday before last, beg your pardon.
right. There were 3 different locations with intentionally set fires, 1 on the roof and 2 inside the building. As far as damage go, there was some damage to the roofing material. As far as the interior of the building, there was really no damage noted other than the vandalism that's already there. So.
Do they have any idea of who said it yet?
No, there's no leads. The state fire marshal's investigating, but we're not very it's not likely that we're going to find any suspects, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because of the people that are in and out of there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jones, on the ad that you put in, would you think it would be appropriate to put in there or renovate? You have tear down
Well,
or renovate the
that
building?
was our initial thought. However, after the fire, I don't know how safe it is or if it is able to be renovated. I was kind of waiting to hear. I'd left a message for the fire marshal to see his opinion. He was, at the time, the way I understand it, he was talking to Mr. Pitko. He was pretty adamant about it being demolished. So I'm not sure if that would be an acceptable alternative at this point. Once I hear from him, I'll have more information, but...
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, then continuing with finance discussion, we'll turn that over to our finance director, Mrs. Harris.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mayor, council, and citizens, the report for April, total revenue, excuse me, $433,544.93 was taken in, and our total expenses for April was $319,301.58. Our year-to-date total for the revenue is $1,745,538.58, and our year-to-date expenses are $1,316,545.73. Our April income tax receipts were $205,937.12, and I did note that that was a little bit of a decrease from this time last year. I talked with the tax administrator, and he did say that so far the first part of May, they were receiving a little bit more that was anticipated for last month. So you'll probably see a little difference when we close out next month. The year-to-date tax receipts are $451,502.76. Bank balances as of the end of March is $1,833,673.77. I did put in a couple other figures that we do have some CDs that come up to $73,031.62 in the bank, and we do have debt payments scheduled to come out here shortly of $476,067.12. And that's our cover sheet.
Any questions? Anyone? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Continuing on, Mr. Pitko, I didn't ask you this earlier. I didn't know if you had any updates for tonight or not.
I just have a couple brief ones. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Just want to give you an update for tomorrow morning. We will have a crew out repairing at least 4 of the 9 main break holes, barring that the asphalt plant doesn't break down in the morning. It's been happening a lot lately. We are looking to do the Gerald, Kinnison, Funston, and then the 571 break that we had by the grain elevator. So those are the 4 we're looking at doing in the morning. We currently still have the Durapatcher out. It has not been out as frequent the last couple weeks, and that's because we have all our public works employees plus some pride workers from the county jail system, and our seasonal working out in the mornings in the cemetery for Mother's Day, which we have now completed, and now we are out there every morning through this week to make sure the cemetery looks in its best condition for the Memorial Day ceremony and walk, and anybody who makes visits to our cemetery. And only other thing I have is the new Carlisle pool passed its first part of its inspection today. The second part will be Thursday, and we don't anticipate any problems on passing our water test. So it will be open this Saturday from noon to 8 for this weekend. And pool passes are for sale, so hopefully we can get a bunch of those sold, and hopefully something come close to breaking even after this year. And that is all I have. I can entertain anything on any of the topics I have put out or anything that I have not.
Okay, Council?
On Prentice Drive, like as you're coming from Brookville, We had just done some repairs up there, but I was wondering, why didn't we repair the gutters as well? Because when you still drive or ride your bike like I was, you can see the gutters sticking 6-7 inches out of the ground where the road had just been repaved.
You talking about right there at that end, right by Brookfield?
Yes.
That was just a scratch coat to smooth out the road, because right now we are working on Prentice with the grant opportunities. So if we do any work now, that will be, concrete is very expensive, so that'd probably been a significant waste. We're coming up that direction anyway with the projects to get those done. But typically, if you go look at the other end where we've done them, we put all new curb and gutter in with the roads.
I just wanted to make sure, because I saw like on the other end it had gotten done, and then up there it's still sticking 7-8 inches out of the ground.
Yeah, we're working that way. That's kind of a temporary thing until we get that hit that direction.
And my other question is, when will the potholes be filled? Because, I'm sure it's shortly, they're on Galewood, and you're coming down, if you're going to IGA, there's these 2 massive potholes diagonal from each other, and you can't miss them because there's 2 cars typically parked on the side of the road.
Talked about that today. Ron and them are currently in the Willowick area. However, we are diverting them first thing in the morning to hit those, because while Mr. Hoke and myself out were measuring the main break holes, we went up to check those out, and we're going to divert him into Northwoods to hit a few of those major holes, and he's going back up into the Willowick area.
All right. That's it.
Anyone else? Mike? Yes.
This year for pool passes, is this the 2-year deal or is this the 1 year?
This is a 1 year.
Okay, I was just curious which.
And we did get the, on top of that, we did get some fish and sharks painted. We got approval, so we'll see how well they
My sharks.
do.
Sharks in the water.
Sharks in the water.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Gabriel? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Continuing then with our planning and zoning, planning director, Mr. Bridge.
Thank you, City Manager Jones. Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public, I'd like to discuss the April 2014 Planning Department activity. We had 6 complaints come through the office. Year-to-date totals up to 14. 23 yellow tags / verbal warnings were issued. A year-to-date total is up to 53 on those. We also had 3 violation notices. Year-to-date total 6. 0 property abatements, and again, 0 property abatements for the year. 4 zoning permit applications came through in April, brings our total up for the year to 18. As you can see from the graph, and especially next month, you'll see a significant spike in violation notices served. I think I issued my 47th grass violation for the month today. So you'll be seeing those spikes go up quite a bit next month. Compliance rates are actually pretty good this month, 91% for yellow tags and violations. And we had 0 violations go into 0 violations go into abatement, so that's 100%. And again, the grass violations to abatements as at 100% as well. I would like to discuss some current work I'm working on. Community yard sale, tentative date July 19th. Planning efforts are underway. Right now, I will be looking at my budget and getting with our finance director about running a few ads in the New Carlisle News. I need to run at least 2. The first one being engaging public participation, how many residents want to take part in it. And then the second one will have to be the list of everybody who is going to be participating, so people who do want to come to town know where they know where they have to go. Community Walk Day, planning efforts to begin July 7th. Everything's primarily done for that. The only thing I need to do is again run an ad in the New Carlisle News to gauge public participation. The map's already been developed, the path has already been developed. I've already got with our fire chief about having some medical personnel on site if needed. But I would like to mention that both these events can be canceled if we don't have a lot of our citizens wanting to participate. New Carlisle is open for business. We do have a few privately owned parcels here in town. That'd be a great spot for your business. If you have any interest in that, just give me a call at the office, 937-845-9492. Next month, I will begin to showcase a parcel each month. So basically with this, with my monthly report, we'll just have some information about that parcel, the size, the acreage, the zoning, the permitted uses, the conditional uses, utilities on site. So I think that's another great way to, again, promote some of these parcels that we do have. Farmers Market still on the books, tentative start date July 21st, end date will be September 27th, 2014. Now I know last month I had talked about the community reinvestment area. Through some digging, Ms. Jones had brought up to me that our downtown has already been designated as a CRA. It was designated, I think, in 84, 85, maybe 86 timeframe. However, the program, the CRA program itself, went through some major overhaul shortly after we had implemented it. So right now what I need to do
is researches to changes made to that program versus what has already been established here and decide, do we need a major overhaul? So it is something I will be doing in the future. Vacant housing for the month is at 81, so it's about normal. We're usually between 80 and 85. And I think that's all I have, so I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Council, questions? Mr. Bridges? Yes.
Sir, I have a question about the yard sale. How many people, have we had anyone sign up as of yet?
You know, no, the only public notification they've seen so far is in the newsletter that Ms. Jones has sent out. Unfortunately, I have not got any calls as of yet. I do think that once I put an ad in the newspaper, we'll see some interest.
Well, can you mark me down? I'm definitely going to participate in it. So
Okay.
I'll be patient.
I will do so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Bridges? I have a question for you. If you would reiterate for the public, I've had a number of people ask about when do we go in and mow. The main one I'm getting on is 571 right across from the park, the one on the corner of Ohio. I know there's a whole process you have to do if you just let people know what, because that house is, I think, being foreclosed on or whatever, I believe.
It is, and speaking of that particular house, usually that, you know, the owner or whoever's in charge of it usually waits to the last minute. So unfortunately, he's not doing it right now. So I thought that I'd be driving up 571 and actually see him out there. I think that particular house has now is in limbo to go to the bank. But to answer your question, our grass is pretty strict. You know, it's 6 inches. So once it's over 6 inches, you are required to cut your grass. Now, the big difference with a grass violation and then any other violation that we give out is I personally don't give out warnings for grass violations. If we gave out a warning, that'd be an additional 5 days. Right now, if you get a grass violation, it's a straight violation, and you literally have 5 days to cut the grass. So just imagine if they had a warning period in that time frame as well. It'd truly be 10 days, plus or minus 1 or 2, counting the weekends. But you know, this time of year is really tough. You know, the first month of the grow season is always the hardest because you just literally can't keep up with it. So yeah, it's a pretty tough time of year, but you know, 6 inches and you got to get it cut. And we do ask that you please do not put your clippings in the street because then it goes in our gutters. And that's not
Now, if we have to go in and actually cut the grass, what type of charges are we looking at that point?
Well, right now it's $75 per hour per man. So if 2 guys are working on it, it's $150 an hour. Depending on if we have to dispose of anything, as far as some trash that may be there. If we do any kind of haul away, that's an additional $200. Everyone that we do abate has an administration fee of $250. So depending on how bad the grass is and how much manpower we take, I've seen some go up to $600. The lowest I've ever seen is probably $287.50.
So it's cheaper to cut your grass?
Definitely cheaper to cut your own grass.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yep.
Much cheaper.
And last year we did just under 20,000 in grass abatements. We had a few extra for public and nuisances,
Right.
but the grass alone, we got about 20,000 in.
So if that's not paid by the individual or the bank, then it's put on the taxes, is that
Sure.
correct?
Yep.
Just wanted to make that point, if you would. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else from Mr. Bridges? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, then with our fire discussion, Chief Phillips.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Mayor, members of council and the public. For the month of April 2014, the New Carlisle Fire Division responded to a combined total of 88 calls for service. Fire responses totaled 13 with an average response time of 7 minutes 39 seconds. The division also responded to 75 emergency medical calls with an average response time of 5 minutes 7 seconds. In Elizabeth Township, we responded to 12 calls for service during April. Fire responses totaled 5, medical responses totaled 7. There were 7 responses into Elizabeth Township itself, 3 into the village of Casstown, and 1 response mutual aid in the village of Christiansburg. Some significant events, we did have a fire on April 1st on 201. Was a structure fire, displaced 1 occupant with no injuries, and the fire was brought under control fairly quickly with the help of our mutual aid partners. We did have a call up here to Smith Park on the 15th. There was a foreign odor noticed when they were up here opening up the bathrooms. One of the public works employees felt some chest tightness and some burning in his throat. We ended up tracking it down to be pepper spray discharge in the bathroom. We're not exactly sure how that happened, but it was in there. And then on April 30th, we did have a structure fire right in the middle of Casstown, 105 North Main Street. Our crews out in Elizabeth Township were first on the scene and initiated fire attack, which brought the fire under control very rapidly. Displaced about 4 occupants with no injuries. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Council, any questions? Just have one. Equipment-wise, are we all right at this point? Emergency vehicles?
Yep, doing well. We had fire repair maintenance in today to fix an oil leak on our ladder truck, but other than that, we're doing good.
Good to hear. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, continuing with our police discussion, Sergeant Underwood.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, Mayor, Council, and citizens. For the month of April, the New Carlisle deputies reported 24 reports. Our county deputies were 13, which was 37 reports for the city. Miles patrolled was 2,909. We had 139 miscellaneous calls, and follow-up investigations, there were 12. Traffic stops, there were 20. Citations issued, out of those were 14. We had no OVIs. Driving under suspension, there was 2. Parking citations, 11. No abandoned vehicles. Non-injury accidents, we had 7. And injury accidents, we had none. Criminal adult arrests, there were 3. Criminal adult charges, there was actually 1 out of those 3. Then we had criminal juvenile arrest 1, criminal juvenile charges, there were 2. And warrants arrested, we had 2 on those also. Assaults, there were none. Breaking and entering, we had 2. Thefts, there were 3. Vandalism, we had 1. 911 hang-ups, there were 10. We had no phone harassments. Domestic violence with an assault, there was 1. Domestic violence verbal, we had 2. Lockouts, there were 5. Peace officers, we had 1. Alarms, 1. And assist, we had 77. Then on 5/7/14 at 6:20, the Clark County Sheriff's Office received a call from the reporting party in reference to a fire at the Old Madison School. The reporting party advised that he and some friends were walking by the school when they observed smoke coming from the roof of the building. The reporting party advised that he did not see anybody around the building or have any idea who may have started the fire. The fire department and uniformed deputies were dispatched to the scene and spoke with the reporting party. The fire was extinguished and damage was noted on the roof of the building near the southeast portion of the building. Now, since it's under investigation, the fire is under investigation by the Clark County Sheriff's Office and the State Fire Marshal's Office. They were asked us to take over the initial investigation because of their workload. There's been, in this quadrant, there's been several arson fires that they're trying to clear up. So actually, we have a detective assigned to that case, and even today he was following up on it. So we have a large involvement with that, and so don't our New Carlisle deputies are also trying to get information. Which, if anyone has any information about the fire, they should contact the Clark County Sheriff's Office at 937-328-2560. And I want to say thank you. Our copier arrived today. It should be up and going, and I'm happy that we have that. And with that, I thank you, and I entertain any questions.
Council, questions? Sorry? Yep.
Did Mrs. Jones get you guys an electric stapler?
Nope, I'm being hard-nosed about it.
But we're going to have to buy a fax machine.
You didn't get it all in one?
No.
We can handle that. Anyone else, any questions for Sergeant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Under informational, the newsletter should have been in your home last week. If you did not receive one, we have them available at the city building, or if you want to call me, I'll be sure to mail one out to you. There's a lot of information in them. I hope that you find them useful. Don't let me know of any typos. And also under informational, I wanted to do one more reminder of our Memorial Day walk. That is this Saturday, May the 24th. We start at noon at the Howard's IGA parking lot, and then we walk to the cemetery for a brief ceremony. Once again, the Eagles have been kind enough to invite everybody who participates back for lunch at their facility on Quick Road. So we hope that you will all come out. It's supposed to be a beautiful day, a great day for walking. It's not too bad of a walk, and we'd love to have you there participating. It's the 17th annual year of this walk. And the other item I would like to remind you of is our community cleanup. It's a little bit earlier this year, where it's the last Saturday in May, May 31st. We start at 8 o'clock, go till noon or until the dumpsters are full. This year we're back to having 3 locations, the old Park Lane Elementary, the former Westlake Elementary, and Tecumseh High School are all locations that are participating in the cleanup. So we encourage you to come out, clean your houses and your yards, and get rid of items inexpensively or free, depending on what it is. There is a charge for tires. There's a charge if you have appliances that have refrigerants in it.
That's it?
Right. If you have any questions about what is or isn't accepted, please give me a call. I'll be glad to go over that list with you. Lastly, this is not in the report, but today our superintendent at the cemetery came in, with his hands holding a bunch of change and some $1 bills. He says, I wasn't sure what to do with this. And because of Memorial Day, I wanted to let you know he had found this little note sitting at the cannon with a bunch of money. It ended up being $5.64. And it was a little note that said, Dear young Marine, I love you and God loves you. Here's some money for gas. Your friend Susan. And I just thought that was so, somebody was trying to help, and we just all got choked up, thought it was a very nice gesture. So I wanted to share that for the holiday, and I hope you all have a good Memorial Day weekend. And that was all I had.
Thank you.
2 questions. At the Memorial Day walk this year, will there be buses to bring people back?
I will have my van. If somebody needs a ride back, I will be glad to give you a ride back.
I will walk there. I can't walk back.
Okay.
The second question. A while back, New Carlisle was designated a Purple Heart City, and there was a flag. What happened to the flag?
It's at the, where the old CVS was on Main Street.
No, it's being cleaned at the moment.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had to take down the other flag, have it repaired, and is having that one cleaned as well. So if you notice, he put up a different one at the moment.
Right, there's a POW flag there.
Right,
That's
it'll
why I
come
noticed
back.
it.
I didn't
Next time we
notice it
change
wasn't
around.
there, sorry.
And it still is in the works for the flagpole to be moved. I don't know if you two know that or not, but it's going to be moved north, so, at the proper time and everything around, okay? Thank you. So it is being cleaned and will be put back up. Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else? City manager? Okay. All right, we will go into comments from members of the public. Mr. Lowry would like to say something first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the reason I asked first is because I attended a meeting with you at the Crime Watch meeting on the 14th of this month, and Mr. Fader was there, and there were some concerns brought up, and I asked these individuals to come to council and to let the officials and city staff know what's going on, and I'll go over some of it, and then if you want to speak, Lowell will allow that to happen. One concern was on, what did I just tell you? On a 200 block of Galewood, shrubs and or trees hanging over in the way. I believe, the gentleman told me about that. Is he in a wheelchair? Is he in a wheelchair?
Yes.
Okay, he's in a wheelchair and he cannot get through. He said he has to go out on the street to get past those. I did ask if they were vacant homes, and he said they are not vacant, they're being lived in, so that needs to be looked into. Okay? Donna Kugler was there. I think she was supposed to be here tonight, but I'll see her. She's still having problems, and everybody back there is still having problems with the four-wheelers going through where they was going before. The big concern, Mr. Pace, you talking about the speeders on Church Street. Wendell, did you tell me that there was 3 vehicles totally demolished on that street? 4? Okay. Okay, right in front of his house. He called the city and asked about speed bumps and was told that they couldn't work. I see them in other cities and I want to know why they can't work. Was it snow plows, I believe, that they won't work? Are our snow plows not breakaway plows and free-floating plows?
Yeah, we have trip edges and rubber.
Okay, then why can't they go over a speed bump?
I don't know who he talked to. we haven't really had a chance to discuss that at all, so he may not have even talked to anybody who could have said yes or no. He may have talked to one of the ladies out front, so, you know, in our defense, we haven't really had a chance to discuss that. That would be something we could look into.
Okay, I seriously think that, I've known Wendy for a while, and I know he didn't sit there and lie about this. I know none of them lied about it.
I don't think
If the
they lied.
speeding is that, no, I'm not talking about the bumps.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the speeding. If it is bad as they say it is, then we need to do something. You know, if there's been 4 cars demolished, who knows when it's gonna be a child, a grown-up, or going to someone's home.
Rick,
Yeah, hang on just a
you might
minute.
have the wrong thing about the speed bumps. This is probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
We asked the city to do something about the speed then. They told us they could not put in a speed bump because it would tear up the snowplow.
Okay.
So, and my question was, how does these other cities have speed bumps? And they've got snowplows.
Right.
Now, I may be out of turn here, but there's from the corner of Scott and Church to Funston and Church, there's 9 permanent babies, little kids. And when the Brewbakers are there, there's somewhere between 25 and 100. You know, there's a bunch of them. Those kids, and I found out from this gentleman right here, it's not only on Church Street, it's all over New Carlisle. They fly. They absolutely do not fly. We get on them, we get accustomed. The next day, our yards is full of beer cans, no nonsense, then the cups that they put their pizza in at the Speedway, all over our yards. The other morning, and there's a Chevrolet tire and rim in my front yard. Now, I was told, oh, no, don't you do nothing. That's my property. I worked all my life for that. And why do I have to stand around and let an 18, 19-year-old kid ruin everything I've worked for? You know, I've been here 45 years in the same house. Go check my place out. I live right down the street from Jimmy. You get to the stop sign at Church and Funston, there's no stop sign there. They joke. They come around the street on 2 wheels, that little curve there below my house. Now, guys, when one of them kids are killed, it's too late. So somebody's got to do something in this town. And I was told personally, I've lived here this long and this is how stupid I am. I have never realized that all the streets running east and west in New Carlisle are one way. They drag race on, they line them up and they start on Madison and Church. The other car is on Lincoln and Church. They race to Clay Street. Now guys, that's one way out there. This gentleman right here said they were aware that they race it outside of town, right? Up north, out wherever they go. But it's getting ridiculous. And I'm not going to be the one to go up and tell one of the women, hey, your baby just got killed out here in the street with some idiot. And there's got to be something done that's got to be done before somebody gets, before the kids gets killed.
Howard? Can we look at cost of speed bumps? And if we can put some in some key places where they are needed. I mean, we don't have to look too far to know they're needed right there. And if they're drag racing on Madison Street, which has no stop signs, how much does a stop sign cost? Surely not as much as a human life.
No, we will definitely look into that, definitely. I mean, that was the first that I have heard of that. So if you talked to somebody a couple of years ago.
Oh, yes, I did. I've called the police 3 or 4 times on the same deal. The same, what did you say the deputy's name is? The little chubby one? No.
He's had deputy media.
He's been at my house enough, he could use my phone number, I guess. But he's the one that investigated all of that. He was up there he was on duty when the wrecks happened. And Stacy got his hot rod totaled right in front of my house. The kid run. Well, they found the car an hour later. An hour and 5 minutes later, the police said the car was stolen. So, and they totaled my truck sitting right in front of my house. Then Andy Kessler had a car that totaled, and the pickup truck sitting right there in front of him. I think it's what, he went 519, he hit that utility pole and totaled the pickup trucks.
Kim, can we have a report on this next council meeting, or at least a month from now?
Yes.
Just, yeah, as I say, just to let everyone know, we use the uniform code of traffic signals, which ODOT puts out, they revise it every couple years. Every city, ODOT uses this, and it tells you how to use a stop sign, how to use a speed bump, how to use a yield. And they pretty much give you strict direction on, for instance, stop signs are not used for the flow of traffic. You don't use a stop sign to determine what your flow of traffic will be, to determine speed. So what we'll do is I will pull some of those items out there, because those are engineered studies. And if there's an instance with this intersection or some issues in between two intersections or going through Funston, a lot of times to install additional stop signs, additional speed bumps, a lot of those will require some sort of a study to determine what type of device, and if that device will be a liability to the city or if it will be a legal thing. So we'll use that guide, and that's what we'll do, kind of fit in our report to just, it's not myself making the decision. We use an approved ODOT guide for that type of device on whether it should be used or not be used.
Okay, question. Are you saying, maybe I misunderstood, you were saying the city of New Carlisle cannot install a speed bump unless ODOT approves it?
Oh, no, not ODOT approves, but we use a guide that they've already used to study intersections inside the city, not our particular city, but various speed zones, things like that. And we use that because it is it's like the fire department uses NFPA. They use the standards. It's not law, but you use the standards. That's what we use for our guidance for street signs and our regulatory signs. We use a known guide to use, so that way we're following the standard protocol. So if there's any liability issues, we won't be held on those.
With all due respect, okay, please understand what I'm saying. Their studies that they did were not done on Church Street. They were done in some other city. Some other city, that little corner that looks just like the one on Church Street might have been in front of a church, might have been in front of a firehouse, and people never drove up over 20 miles an hour. We have a problem in that particular area of people speeding. There's been 4 accidents of cars destroyed. I don't think that's where we need to look. I think we need to sit and look at ourselves and say that these citizens need a speed bump.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm not saying they don't, but we will probably end up bringing in some sort of a firm to say if we have a book to guide us and we want something to go outside of that, we will probably use some sort of a traffic engineer to make that decision. So that way the liability is not on the city. We will use a professional for that type of, to get that approval.
What kind of liability do you have for a speed bump? I mean, if a guy's going 80 miles an hour on a street and he's only supposed to go 25 and hits it, destroys his car, are you telling me the city's responsible?
I will let the law director.
I don't understand the whole situation, I'm sorry.
Briefly, Mr. Lowry, the issue with governmental entities that install traffic control signage or devices that are not allowed is not, again, it's not a law, but not recommended by the, and again, Howie, what is the code called?
It's a uniform traffic signal code.
Okay. I don't think it's possible necessarily to happen with a stop sign or a speed bump, but if somebody were to get into an accident and claim, that the speed bump somehow was a contributing factor to their damages or injuries, if the city is not in compliance with that code, it potentially, I'm not saying for sure, but potentially put the city on the line for some liability for those damages.
Okay. So you're not saying that they have to okay the speed bump being there, just that to figure out what the liability is to the city for putting it there?
Potential liability.
Potential.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. So we will hear something back and see if we can't get something done
We will look
as
into
soon as
that.
possible?
Right.
Okay.
Sure will.
And I will hound you on it. I will hound you. Okay? And I bet you those people out there will too.
Thank you for your
Thank you very much.
Well, listen, what about you're the maintenance of some of them, aren't you?
Yes.
Do you have any silences, kids play, children play, slow kids or something? You can stick up there on that street?
Yeah, we usually get one or some will get a request. request. And when we get that request, we look at that, like when we have someone who has a deaf child or a deaf individual near those areas, they request that we put a sign out there, and we look to make sure, because we don't want to over-sign something. But yes, if you see that there's a ton of kids, we go there and say, yeah, there's like 10 to 20 kids that play in that area, then we have it's usually not too hard to put a child at play. Those aren't regulatory signs, they're just more like a kind of a warning sign.
Sir, could we ask that you give your name for the record for the minutes?
Pardon me?
Could we ask for your name for the record?
My real name, Wendell Pace. Your real name.
Are you here under an assumed name tonight, Wendell?
Can you also look into the four-wheeler situation?
I got it written down.
Thank you.
Yes, Sarge.
Well, one of the things I want to point out is, although you may have spoken specifically to some deputies, the first time that I had heard we was having this kind of problem or issue was from Deputy Fader at his crime watch when he was up here last week. I can assure you that we're going to step up patrol. I think we had 6 citations in that area today, and we are going to be proactive. We are going to stop people for speeding, stop signs, and seat belts. So that is one thing that we can do to assist. So give me just a second, please. One of the things that's critical that's coming up is we're going to have a police levy, and we are short on manpower up here. I'm not using that as an excuse, but we've had a Band-Aid up here for probably 6 or 7 years. And if you want full-time protection and you absolutely need a supervisor up here, I'm the supervisor from here, and I have an office 16 miles from here. And we understand your concerns and your complaints, and believe me, we don't want anyone, a child, no one hurt. We have a deputy specifically visit the school at various times a day, each day. That's how we are trying to assist up here. We don't want any children hurt. But on the other hand, we've not received a lot of complaints by telephone. By stopping and telling a deputy that there's speeders there, well, we know that, but what time of day are we having the speeders? I know because after the meeting, I talked to some statistical people, and there's about 1,000 cars a day going north on Church Street. There is about 10 to 12,000 cars going north on 235. So we have a volume of traffic here. But we need the complaints. We need you to call in and voice your concern. And as soon as I get the information, I will put someone in that area. It just can't be hearsay, or just like your trash in your yard. Did you ever report that? You reported rim in your yard. Okay. We try daily and nightly to find, and I'm just going to call them criminals because that's what they are. They vandalize our area. They make it tough on you and us. And we have done a really good job here in the last few years of cleaning this place up. We've had a volume of traffic. We've had a slowdown on 235. We've dealt with truck issues. And we will deal with your issue. But I need to know about it in order to take care of it. And that's what we need, is you are our eyes. You are our ears. We need to know what time of day. If it's happening every day, then you know who it is. Tell us who it is. Give us a description of the car. Get a license plate number. And that's what we'll look for. I've had deputies up here set running traffic in some of your areas for as much as 2 hours, and we haven't caught a speeder. So to have them sit in one place all day is just not feasible. As far as patrolling, absolutely, we're going to get up here and patrol, and when time permits, we're going to be sitting out there and we're going to be writing citations. So with the help with the city, and I understand their dilemma with the speed bumps, but that's why we have law enforcement up here, to address the issue, and we're going to. Sir.
Okay. This happened this Sunday, last Sunday, week ago yesterday. These kids call, they call me stuff I never heard of when I was in the street. So I told them to slow down. And they started cussing me and screaming and squalling and come by. And they started to get out of the car. Well, I've got a stick. When I used to mushroom hunt,
Mm-hmm.
and this one started to jump out of the car, and oh God, I'd give anything to come up my yard. But then the other one in the back seat started going, man, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. Well, he jumped in the car and left. Then, now, this, I told this gentleman right here the same thing. I was talking to just 2 kids. And I said, how in the hell can you get out here and run these streets this fast? He said, we know before we leave home where the cops are at. Because I call 3 friends, he calls 3 friends, he calls, pretty soon, all the little 20-member gang instead of meeting in Howard Parking Lot, they're out here running the streets because they know exactly where the sheriff's deputy's sitting. I mean, and if you think I'm lying, get off your recliner or something even and watch them. If you look straight at the car, like I'm looking at this gentleman right here, you can read their license plate. Look at it at an angle. They've got a piece of plastic on it. These kids are not done. They've got a piece of plastic on it. Superman couldn't read it. But if you look at it straight, you can make every number out on it. But if I'm on my front porch and a car comes by, I've been told this a dozen times, you know, license plate number. I can't hardly read the paper, much less get a license plate number. But
No, I'm not saying you have to get a license plate number. I'm saying if you can, that's helpful. And it's, within that general area, it has to be the same people repetitively. It can't be new people all the time. So give us a color of the car. What direction travel? Give us a time.
well, Sunday, when the deputy was on my front porch, we was getting ready. I thought he was gonna file a complaint or something. His radio went off and he left my front porch over to Park Lane for a disturbance that they broke out on, whatever they said the name of the street, I can't remember. But there was baseball bats involved. And he said, I'll get back with you. And this-
Mr. Pace, if we could go off the meeting, if you would stay, I'm sure the sergeant would love to talk to you at the end of the meeting and give him the information that you want. And believe me, I live on Church also, and they come off 235 big time, and they know that. They've been trying to stop this, and I understand what you're saying, and believe me, it's very frustrating. And there's been 3 cars hit just up from my house over the since I've lived here. So I understand what you're saying, but if you could get together with the sergeant at the end of the meeting, I'd certainly appreciate it, so we can go on. All right, sir? Thank you so much for being here. Anyone else like to say anything out in the audience tonight? Okay. Again, we love to hear your concerns, and we want to try and address your concerns. Mr. Lowry was at the meeting, and he got his earful, I guess, and that's a good thing. And that's one of the reasons we should go and try and take care of the problems that people have out in the city. And I know everyone over there on the other side would like to help as well as here. So again, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just some clarification on Mr. Pace, and I'll make it briefly. What he's talking about is there's some young car clubs that are out, just like the Hot Rodders and so forth. And these are kids in their late teens, early 20s that have the Honda Civics, that have the mufflers on them. There's a group of them, we watched them all summer, last summer in Springfield. And what they do is they all get together in a parking lot of a vacant business. They all sit around, do their talking, and so forth. And then eventually, what they're doing is they're watching us as we go up and down East Main Street. They're watching the New Carlisle deputies if they're in Park Lane or if they're in a lot of advanced auto parts. I know last summer when I was patrolling out here on the midnight shift for the county, we would see them in advanced auto parts, and there wouldn't be a lot of them. But what they do is they decide where they're going to race. And what happens is they go out, usually out into the county someplace, and they race. But they do talk in Park Lane, they do talk in New Carlisle, they're also talking on East Main Street in Springfield. We hit East Main Street really heavy last year. However, they go out into the county, and we're finding out about it a half hour after the fact. So it does happen here, they do talk, and they do go out and race. As far as where they're racing at in Bethel Township, I'm not aware of a specific street. But it is happening, and that's probably some of the traffic that he's getting in front of his house, especially late at night, because eventually they go home and they These kids have no conscience. They don't care. And if they hit somebody, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to keep going. So that is what we're dealing with. And to be specific, it's not every street in New Carlisle, but we've addressed these problems as road deputies here on a continuous basis. We always have people coming up to our cruisers if we're parked, hey, can you watch Galewood, can you watch Drake? It's a continuous problem, and as these younger generation kids get their license, they seem to be tempting fate, and they're hitting these stop sign red lights or whatever they want to do because they think they're invincible. So because it's not addressed and we're not getting phone calls at the sheriff's office, there's a lot of complaints on traffic. There always has been. And I think Sergeant Underwood said it best. If they do start calling in and starting to target some of the areas specifically, I think you'll see a reduction.
Thank you, Officer Fader. Appreciate it. Okay, let's head on here now. Committee reports, any tonight?
None tonight.
Okay, resolutions. If you would, Mr. Collier, if you go ahead and read that, please.
Resolution 14-05R, a resolution directing the Clark County Board of Elections to include in the general election in the city of New Carlisle on November 4, 2014, an additional tax levy on income for police and street expenses.
Thank you. Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Mr. Lott.
make a motion to adopt resolution 14-05R.
Second.
This resolution is the beginning of the process to get on the ballot in November an additional tax levy of 0.5% added to our current 1%, and we are going to earmark those funds in a special line item for only to be used for police or street expenses. Sergeant Underwood was talking about it. The police department has a lot of needs. Right now, we're spending almost $400,000 a year out of our general fund to pay for the contract and their additional, they need new vehicles. The vehicles are all one by one going to be needing to be replaced. Our general fund cannot take a hit anymore. We have to be able to supplement the money into the city so that we can still function as a city and do the other operations that are needed. So this resolution will go to the Board of Elections, and along with the ordinance that will be voted on at the next council meeting, and then that would start the process to get it on the ballot.
If you would, it's a 5-year renewable, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
5-year renewable, 0.5%, earmarked strictly for police and streets. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah, to bring up the genesis of this, because I know there's been some talk since it was in the newsletter and people had questions on it. The reason why this came about is because we had this issue with how much it costs us to provide law enforcement services for the city. So we had a committee of private citizens who volunteered to review the situation and come out with a recommendation. And they came back to us saying that the 0.5% income tax was the best way to go, would be best for the city, both for the residents and also to rectify the situation. Based on that, we had a discussion with a number of citizens in and around New Carlisle. They told us their concerns. They told us what they would like to see from it, and that's where the notion of having it earmarked came from, and also it being a renewal. And that way, if it were to pass, people could go through and see whether or not we're living up to the standards we said we were, and whether or not they want to keep them after the 5 years. So basically, the neat thing about this is that this is something that was made by, the idea was developed by citizens who came together to try to improve the city. And from that, we got more input from the people of New Carlisle, and that's sort of how this started.
Thank you. Did you want to say something?
Yes, please. Sergeant Underwood, I know we went over this a couple of times, but since we got somewhat of a bigger crowd tonight, we've had a lot of people asking New Carlisle why we don't have our own police department. And I think a lot of people, don't realize some of the services we get with the contract that we do have with Clark County. So if you wouldn't mind, just go over some of the things that we get with our contract so everybody can hear it again, please.
Sure. Well, one of the things that we do not have full-time coverage up here with the New Carlisle deputy. And that does hurt your community, because anytime you have someone working in the city, specifically for the city, you get more personalized. We do have a number of hours that are not covered, and the sheriff has agreed to cover those hours with his uniform patrol. We usually have a district car. When we do not have a New Carlisle deputy on, a district car will come up and take the complaint or the report. And this gentleman is absolutely right. If something supersedes that down the road, they're going to have to leave. They don't have a choice. I apologize for that deputy not getting back with you, but we do have overtime issues, and I don't know how long he was tied up. And I would give you my number. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you. But that's one thing. That's a large benefit that you have, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have anyone up here. So just the sheriff's office covering your uniform patrol up here is a big plus. Just like the fire is under investigation right now. The state fire marshal have a lot of cases. They asked us to step in and start the investigation. A detective was assigned to it, and he's working on that investigation. So his resources and his time, there's no charge to the city for that. Anytime investigations bring anything out, Deputy Fader, or Detective Fader, I should say, he's here because the sheriff's office is paying for him to be here. He came to the Crime Watch because the sheriff's office is paying him to be here, and it's not New Carlisle. We have an evidence technician that comes up anytime there's evidence up here and collects the evidence, takes it back, submits it into our evidence, takes it to the lab, and there's no cost for that. That in itself is phenomenal. The list, it will go on, but just those several that I mentioned are thousands and thousands of dollars. Just for instance, all the paperwork that we use for New Carlisle deputies is given to us through the sheriff's office. The citation books, only parking citation books do we pay for. But the citation books we do not pay for. We don't pay for, I'm trying to think here. Well, we have special blue paper. City of New Carlisle doesn't have to pay for that. Anytime there's an incident at the school up here, we send all the resources that we possibly have. That's a huge plus. We had a bank robbery up here a few years ago, and I responded, but we also had 3 other supervisors, and our command staff was up here almost instantly. And that's when they brought out all the crime lab and that. We have access to BCI. If for some reason the crime is large or there's an involvement where we feel like we should call in an outside agency, they come in and there's no charge. So there's a lot of little things that is not charged for, but if you sit down and added those up, you're talking thousands of dollars. So we do provide a lot for free to the community. So off the top of my head, there's a whole there's 2 pages of it, but that's off the top of my head.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor, anyone? Yes.
Well, as most of you know, like I go door to door and talk to citizens all the time across the city. Talked to Mr. Cook here 2 weeks ago. But I honestly can't vote to support this levy because after really doing a lot of soul searching, I campaigned on not voting to increase taxes. And actually most of us have articles going back from when I ran in 2011, which said things to the effect of we were all against more taxes and it was to create business development. I don't think it's going to work. I know we're feeling the pinch. I mean, everyone is. I did some research. Ground chuck, the cheapest hamburger meat you can buy, has gone up 11 cents per pound. Gas, a gallon of milk has gone up 43 cents a gallon. Gas goes up and down. We've increased 9 new fees in the last 3 years. And I just think that the way we keep going is not going to help. And I've heard members of council say we don't want to be like Tip City, but now we're going to have our taxes equal the same as Tip City for our income tax if this passes. And it's a 50% increase. I was just talking to people, I just can't bring myself to vote for it, so I'll be voting no.
Mr. Reynolds, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
We had work sessions.
Yes.
Did we not?
Yes.
What were your comments in the work sessions on this? What did you want?
Earmarking.
You wanted earmarking?
Yes, I did.
And which way did you want to go at that point?
Well, originally we discussed a property tax And I
We
said,
did.
And I said, okay, that would
And we
probably.
had citizens
Yes.
input, correct?
Yes, we did. And they said that the income tax would be the best, but to my convictions of talking to people and a citizen handed me my flyer from 2000,
You know,
Mr. Mayor,
the problem,
if I
sir,
can.
you didn't bring any of this up in our work sessions or anything.
Did that happen last
Now
year?
you're making a statement that you're not for it because you're not for taxes. None of us are for taxes, but we're trying to provide the services for the city of New Carlisle and the people sitting out there.
But when I campaigned, like, a woman handed me a piece of literature saying, didn't you say you're going to fight to keep taxes low? And with my conviction, I cannot knock on doors and tell people I've campaigned
I'm
for it.
just putting on notice that
That's fine.
I don't agree with that at all, what you're saying.
That's fine.
Okay? Anybody else? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just kind of jump in on this whole thing here. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it. Before I was on council, I would love to have seen New Carlisle's tax go up. Not because I wanted it, but, I mean, you come to these meetings, and we've all said that we want to see these roads fixed. Every one of us has said it, you've said it, I've said it. There's no way to fix them without more money. And I think if you look at New Carlisle's recent history over the past 5 to 8 years or so, and I've said it in the past few meetings, we have been so efficient with our money as far as spending. It's not been being blown here and there. I mean, you know, Kim and Howie and council has done an amazing job. You can't stretch a dollar into two. It's just as simple. When you live in a city, and unfortunately, government as a whole, you know, federal, state, city, taxes unfortunately are part of the way of life. When you choose to live in a city, you live there for a reason, because you are a block away from a Howard's IGA or from the gas station, instead of living out in the country where you've got to drive 20 miles. So you choose to live in that city for the benefits of the parks, the closer grocery stores and things of that nature. And unfortunately, you have to pay for those services. You have to pay for that water pipe that's coming into your house that feeds you nonstop water. You have to pay for those roads that have potholes in them, that you want to get them smoothed out. And I would love not to ask for more money, but if you want better roads and things of that nature, unfortunately, tax is going to have to come up somehow, some way, and there's no way around it. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I mean, I can't really explain it much more than that. You got $1 and you need 2. It's not going to stretch to $2, unfortunately. I don't think, that we've been at 1% for so long. And if you look at the surrounding communities, I don't think there is a city that has 1%. There's villages, villages, but no cities. There's no cities with a 1%. So we're without a doubt the lowest. I don't think it's out of ordinary for us to ask for that, but that's just my opinion.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
First and foremost, I can't tell you how to vote. You look around you and you make up your mind whether the city needs the money or not. Apparently, Mr. Reynolds is somewhat confused, as he was when he wanted to take money from the fire department levy and spend on the street, which is illegal. We are not sitting here to vote on a tax tonight. We are sitting here to vote to put it on a ballot, so you, the public, can vote on that tax. We are giving the public and the citizens of this city the right to vote on the tax, to say yes or no, and tell us what you want to do. We're not voting on the tax right here, but so, apparently you misunderstood what you read.
I understood, but it's going on the ballot.
Well, you said you wouldn't vote for the tax, so I didn't, that's what you said.
Put it on the ballot, but.
That's not what you said. You said.
So I can go on all day.
But at any rate, I'm going to vote on it, so the citizens have the right to vote yes or no. I personally think we need it, we can use it, it won't be wasted, and that's my opinion. But I just want to stress, we are not, these people right here are not voting on a tax tonight. We are voting to put it on the ballot.
Anyone?
Actually,
Yes.
that's not a law, it's a resolution. The law comes next.
Right, thank you.
I
Mr.
call for a
Taylor.
vote. I call for the votes on the motion.
Okay. Would you please, sir, thank you.
Mr. Zambach,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
No.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes,
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Passed 5-1.
before we go on, is there anyone out in the audience who would like to say anything on this, since it's now been passed? Do we have any comments? Anyone on the committee, anyone like to go up and speak? If you would, could you go up to the podium if you would, please, sir? Thank you. I'd just like to get the information out to people if we would.
My question is to Sergeant Underwood. Do I understand that the $400,000 is primarily for salaries and for care of vehicles, care of gas and that kind of thing, that a lot of the resources are being provided free of charge through Clark County Sheriff's Department? Am I correct in understanding that?
Yes, sir, and also the benefits of the deputies that are hired up here. And let me point out that myself, I'm paid 2 hours a month. The rest of it is free gratis.
As a member of the committee that will be trying to get the public to approve this, it seems to me that the request is a reasonable request. We want to have the 0.5% increase. And then hopefully we need the police protection, just what you were talking about, Mr. Denise, tonight. I think he's given a pretty good explanation in terms of they can't be every place at the same time. And the time that we need them is sometime when they're someplace out on the road. But I think what he's saying and what we're hearing here is that we definitely need to look at an increase. If we're spending $400,000 out of a general budget, which is what, Kim, around there, what is our general budget?
General fund.
800,000?
Oh, no, it's more than that, but the whole budget is about 5 million.
But out of general fund?
Oh, general fund, oh geez, without having that for me.
I've got those figures.
She'll look.
I don't know if I have the exact
That's
number.
maybe an unfair question.
I think we've been told that it's around $900 and some thousand. That's what it boils down to.
And so what I'm saying is, it seems to me that's almost half of what our general fund expenditures are. And we all know what's happening in our just not in our community, but across the nation. The cost increases. And I think we have to stand up and take a look at this. We do need this issue passed. You look at the street conditions in this town. They're right there as a major cost. And we know, I just read in the paper this morning what the federal government is now saying that their fund is almost completely gone. Now, I don't know whether I believe that totally when we when we hear some of the things that come out of the federal government. But we do know we have a major problem economically in this country across the spectrum. National government, communities like ours, we have some major problems. And the public has to step up and take a look at these things. They're very concerning to me in our New Carlisle community here that we need to do something about it. Thank you for your remarks, comments, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
A while back, City Manager Jones asked me to serve on this police committee. I think I can go back to when Mr. Collier and I served also in another police committee. This also was at a request of the previous city manager. That police committee was brought about to go back to our own police department. We had entertained the Sheriff's Department for a number of years. The committee came up with the fact that you are getting and have gotten from the Sheriff's Department a professional law enforcement. You're getting professional protection. The cost to this city is substantial, but you're getting what you pay for. Prior to our having the Sheriff's Department, we had our own police department. And as I stated in the work session, most of the time the law directors were time was spent in court defending the city from lawsuits that had been brought on by the persons that were on the police department. This was a training ground. Young persons came out of the academy or from wherever, served at the pleasure of the service director and the city manager. Some with good backgrounds, some with good intentions, some not. That committee brought forth, and I think some of you were on council at that time, I believe Rick was, I'm not sure whether, I think Lowell was. It was almost a unanimous decision of that committee that we maintain our relationship with the Sheriff's Department. And I think as Mr. Berry has also stated, with the state of the economy, what is happening on the national level, the state level, our funds from those persons or that entities have dropped considerably. Salaries have increased, taxes have increased, my Social Security hasn't increased. So consequently, I've got to pay for the service that I get from the city, from the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, the water, the sewer, whatever. I don't think there's any other way that we can go about this without going the income tax route. I believe that if we tried to put a property tax on, we were almost doomed from the beginning. The elderly people in this town sometimes do not have enough for their medicine, for their food, sometimes rent or house payments, let alone to pay any more on property tax. That was one of the reasons that the committee made the recommendation to go for the income tax. Now, I know Ethan had stated that he made a promise of no new taxes. That's a fine and very admirable situation. That was done at a time when things were status quo. Today, things are down here. I think you have to take into consideration each and everything that comes before council at the time and all of the items that surround that agenda. Therefore, I'm going to vote for the tax. Probably won't affect me a great deal like the person's out here. But over the years, I've made my share of payments to the tax. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else? Yes, Sergeant.
I just want to make one comment. For the citizens of New Carlisle, what safer place could you live in than here? You know when you go home tonight, you're going to be protected. You know that the fire and emergency services are going to take care of you, and you know the sheriff's office is going to take care of you. In order to keep what we have and maintain it, we're going to have to do something, and it needs to be soon. And we have a lot of dedicated people to this community, and I can think of no safer place to live than the city of New Carlisle tonight. And our intentions are to keep it like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lau.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to just beat a dead horse. I've heard all you people talk. I personally love New Carlisle. I want to see it prosper. I want to see it work. And when I go through New Carlisle, I know for a fact that I can pick up my phone and call the police and I'm going to get a response. I can pick up my phone and call the fire department and get a response. Is anyone here besides me, and I'm sure you have, been keeping up with Detroit City? The officials have told those people, if you live in a certain part of this city, your house catches on fire, don't call, we ain't coming. Somebody robbed your house, don't call, we're not coming, we don't have the money. Now, not quite the same situation, much bigger city. And the money was probably wasted. That hasn't been proven yet. There was some corruption or something going on with the mayor or whatever. But, you know, I don't want to see us to get to where I pick up the phone and say, hey, we got something going on here, and say, we don't have any money, we can't go. You know, so let's think about that a little bit, okay? We've got some pretty good services in New Carlisle. It's a great place. So, you know, but I personally will vote for it, and as Bill said, you're right, I'm 69 years old, I won't have to pay it, but I can guarantee you one thing, when I go vote, I'll think about him, I'll think about my grandkids, and that will have something to say about it, so, okay? And I will vote for it, and I voted tonight to give everybody in this city the opportunity to voice their opinion when they go to the polls.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Enough for that tonight. We have an ordinance coming up, next council meeting about that, so we'll continue on at that point. Mr. Collier, if you go on with the ordinances now, please.
Ordinance 14-26, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance amending section 1280 of the codified ordinances of the city of New Carlisle regarding the parking of large commercial vehicles.
Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Lynn.
We adopt ordinance 14-26.
Second.
I'll start out with an explanation of this ordinance, and I think Mr. Bridge had something he wanted to add as well, but my intent on this ordinance was to adjust the time in item B so that it is, matches what we have set as quiet hours in the city. These are slightly off from that. And then Mr. Bridge had other intentions when we started working on this section.
Yeah, we're trying to look for a way to combat, some of these, we have a few citizens that would like to park their tractor trailers, their front end, what is that thing called? Not the pole truck, but the cab. Tractor, cab park back on residential streets. And with this, how the current language is read was, a lot of ways for people to get loopholes around that essentially, For example, you see number 2 hashed out, it says for emergency repairs only. I would go up to tax somebody for parking their cab in the residential street, and then they would just have their hood open. We go to tag, I'm doing emergency repairs. And that goes along too with the hours as well. By the time I got there, I don't know how long it was there prior to being there, so it really didn't really enforce the 24-hour rule. So it really was just a way to really crack down on those putting their cab in residential streets.
Any comments? Yes.
I do. Kim, don't take this personal, okay? I like the ordinance. I do not particularly like that if I park a camper, if I'm out of state and I park a camper, and I know it's illegal, that I can call the city manager or write a written request to her and she can change that. My problem with that is someone comes and visits me, they're here 3 days and you can grant a request. My neighbor, maybe they're staying 4 days, and for whatever reason, you don't grant him a request. That all lies on your shoulders. I think if that's going to be taken care of, I think that's up to law enforcement to say, just the same way with the speeding ticket, okay, you're 8 over, you're okay, you're 12 over, I'm going to give you a ticket. I think we'll get a lot of people coming and saying, city manager doesn't have the right to do that. I just don't like that part of it. I think a law is a law, and you've got to stick with it.
That was mostly for people who were trying to get their RVs ready to go out, like park it on a Friday to pack up and leave on Sunday or something like that. To be honest with you, in the 17 years, I think I've had one family that consistently follows that ordinance and always puts in writing a request to be able to do that.
Okay.
I've never had anybody else ask me.
Like I said, nothing personal. I just thought it would be better if a police officer rode up and saw it and they said, hey man, we're leaving in the morning, or I've got a relative that's leaving in 2 days, and let them make that decision, not the city manager.
Mr. Bridge, you had a comment?
That's just my thoughts, okay?
A lot of times when I saw, people do put it in, places where it's not supposed to be to load or unload before or after a trip. When you see the over 48 hours, it's usually in the off-season when they either winterize it or bring it out for the first time. So that's when I personally saw anything like, oh, I need it here because I'm fixing, winterizing it or whatever people do to these things before they storm away for the summer or bring them back out. I don't think we got very many requests over the course of the last year.
Well, what I was talking about, Randy, was like if someone came and visited for a week and parked it, where do they park it for a week?
A week?
I'm just using that 3 days, let's say 3 days, where are they going to park it? They can't park it in hours, they can't park it on the street,
They can't park it on the street.
Exactly, yeah. So, that's got to be dealt with, and that, so. But it was just my thought, that's okay.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Mr. Collier, if you would.
Mr. Zambach?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry?
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Rick Lowry?
No.
Mayor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Passed 5-1.
If you would go forward with the next one when you're ready, please.
Ordinance 14-27, public hearing and action tonight. An ordinance amending section 1460 of the codified ordinances of the city of New Carlisle regarding the cost of abating public nuisances.
Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to adopt ordinance 14-27.
Second.
Okay, as we discussed earlier, how much money was brought in last year because of us having to cut grass. People were not taking care of their own yards. That is our city employees, mostly our street department, doing that. And it's a small department, and they were spending a lot of time. You can see how much time they were spending if we brought that much money in. So we are amending the ordinance so that we will now most times be using a contractor to do the mowing, so that our street department people can continue to do their regular jobs. And this is amending the ordinance so that we can charge whoever's yard it is the price that we are paying for that contractor. Not necessarily two employees at $75 an hour. It set fees. Mr. Bridge, did you have anything you wanted to add into that?
No.
Okay. So mostly it's just to change the ordinances so that we can hire the contractor and adjust the rates.
Council, questions? Anyone? I do have a question with it. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask, the point of this was then to free up some of our employees so they can focus on more pressing concerns.
Right.
And maybe it's written in here, it's in legalese, but if the charge, the total cost for the contractor was less than $75, would it be what they were charged, what the homeowner would be charged would be that lesser amount, or is it 75 is the threshold?
They will be charged either the dollar or the $75 per city employee, or the total cost the city is charged for the private contractor. In
Okay.
addition, in either case, they are still charged the administrative fee.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on this. Well, does anyone else have a question before we go? If, we just heard about possibly putting it on the taxes and so forth, if it's foreclosure or whatever, how are they going to be paid, the people that we're hiring to come in to take care of that?
The city will have to front the money just.
So the city would have to front the money at that point. I just wanted to bring that up.
Sorry, I have a quick question.
Yes, please, go
Outside,
ahead.
not yours. How long does it typically take once we have to put it on their back taxes? Like, how long does it typically take? Like, when they sell the home, we get the money back plus interest, but how long does that take, would you say?
Actually, we were surprised when we saw the money that we got from the auditor this past March. We actually got 80%, 90%?
We got 83, we billed for 20,000, and in the first half of the property taxes that were paid, we got $8,300. So we're expecting $8,300 in the August dump. So we'll get about 16 of the 20,
Which is more
which is pretty fortunate.
So about a year?
Maybe this time.
Okay. Anyone else? Question? Mr. Collier, please call for the vote.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Rick Lowry,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Lowry,
Yes.
Mayor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre,
Yes.
Mr. Zambach.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Mr. Collier, when you get ready, if you would read the rest of the ordinances and then also the other business all the way through, if you would, please. Thank you.
Ordinance 14-29, introduction, public hearing, and action on 6/2/2014. An ordinance amending Chapter 238 of the codified ordinances of the City of New Carlisle regarding the division of fire. Ordinance 14-30, introduction, public hearing, and action on 6/2/2014. An ordinance amending Section 106614 of the codified ordinances of the City of New Carlisle, Ohio regarding indigent burials. Ordinance 14-31, introduction, public hearing, and action on 6/2/2014. An ordinance amending, subject to the approval of the electors of the City of New Carlisle, Ohio, Section 880.04A of the codified ordinances of the city in order to increase the rate of the municipal income tax of the city to 1.50% effective January 1, 2014. 2015, thank you, sorry.
Retro.
Yeah, retro. City offices will be closed on Memorial Day, Monday, 5/26/14. There'll be a joint government meeting on Monday, June the 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the Tecumseh High School. Memorial Day walk will be this Saturday, the 24th, starts at noon from the Howard's IGA parking lot. Community cleanup will be Saturday, 5/31 from 8 a.m. to noon at the Old Westlake School property. And the New Carlisle Crime Watch meeting will be Wednesday, June the 11th at 6:30 p.m. here at Smith Park Shelter House.
Thank you, sir. On the New Carlisle Crime Watch, Wednesday, June the 11th, do we have somebody that will be there at that point? You'll be there again, sir?
I'll be there.
Is there someone else from council that would like to say they will be there? All right, so we have Bill and Rick will attend at that point. I may attend also. Anything else from anyone in the audience at all tonight? Council, anyone? Any other business?
Just one thing. I do get a ride back from the cemetery, correct?
Yep.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Mattel.
I have one thing. I'm excited because this week the Washington Post printed an article proving that Ohio is the best state in America. Now, why does the Washington Post say Ohio is the best state in America? Well, that's because we have the best Bureau of Motor Vehicles in the United States. You always hear that the Bureau of Motor Vehicles is this terrible, god-awful place where it's like purgatory, you never want to go there. Well, that's not the case in Ohio because according to their study, more than 97% of customers in Ohio's BMVs said they are satisfied with their experiences. The average Ohio resident waits just under 15 minutes to receive service at any of the agency's 240 locations. That's compared with the 54-minute average wait in California. And Ohio is ranked high in customer satisfaction because of its low fees for registering vehicles and renewing plates. So if you want to experience the best thing in America, you can head down to the License Bureau here in New Carlisle, and that's the best thing that we have. So there we are.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's true. We did have to save it, so it's important. It's important to visit it because it wasn't that long ago that we almost lost it. So.
That's correct.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Zambo. We are adjourned.